Hey everyone, we're so glad you're here to join us today. Myself, Coach Suzanne Patrick, joined by Coach Corinne. So excited to be speaking on unlocking genetic health potential with you, Coach Corinne. Thanks for being here with me today. And thank you, all of you, for joining us to view and learn more about how you can personalize your wellness with scientific strategies and transform your body from the inside out. I always say your outside of your body reflects what's going on the inside, but the challenge is we don't know what's going on the inside and we can't see it. So it can be a little bit of a puzzle, but we've got some pretty cool tests, a pretty cool test here, and we're going to move through our genetic health test with you today.
Hey, all right. I love that, Coach Suzanne. And we just want to do a little short introduction of who we are, since we don't know where you're finding us from. And my name is Coach Corinne Roberts. I'm an Institute of Integrative Nutrition health coach, and I'm also a Go Trim lifestyle coach and trainer, medical wellness consultant. I specialize in gut health and hormone health. Once I started my journey as a coach 15 years ago, I was focusing on just nutrition and nutraceuticals and exercise. We've added so many more components, and we figured out our microbiome is being highly studied and how that impacts us. And now adding this genetic layer to help you connect the dots is so empowering, and we're really excited, as Coach Suzanne said, to help you connect the dots with your health.
Yes. And, I'm excited to work with you, Corinne, because we have similar paths. We've both owned gyms. We've been in the fitness industry, cardio, lifting weights, all the different things. We've done health coaching, metabolic coaching, and you've gone through, different layers of hormones, different layers of gut health. You're specializing in menopause. And so I love that because you have so much to add, right? So no matter where our client is coming from, there's a lot of pieces to the puzzle that we can help the individual put together. And myself, similarly, as I said, I've owned fitness centers. I love exercising, but I'm really, really passionate about nutrition. And so I've coached women specifically in nutrition for over 10 years. You've been in the industry, in the health space for 15, 20 years, a long time. And what I kept finding was that people were what I call now relapsing. Like they couldn't keep their diet on track, their fitness on track, even their health on track. So whether you're looking to lose weight, gain muscle, or improve your health, there's missing links to that piece of the puzzle for you. And so I've become an integrative healthcare practitioner and health coach, incorporating the mind and the spirit with nutrition. So piecing together that component. And I'm super excited to now be adding this genetic testing again to give the insight from the inside out.
I love that, Coach Suzanne. I just want to piggyback on that with that integrative health coaching, which we both are so passionate about getting to the root cause of what's going on. So before we go into our specific genetic test, I just want to mention that there's a lot of genetic tests out there on the market. And I've actually had 6 of them done in my journey to find the right one that was a good fit for our holistic approach. And what I found was a lot of genetic tests will come in with all of these disease states. And they're going to tell you all of the diseases that you're predisposed to according to your genetics. We're going to talk about expression and things like that through this presentation. But what I truly love about this genetic test is its holistic approach. And we're going to start and go over that with you now, because it's all about getting to the root. We don't care what that outcome is. It's good to know, I guess, in a way, but why even? We don't even have to go there if we start at the root and help our bodies work the way that they're supposed to be working, with or without us. It's the way God made us. And all we need to know is how our individual and unique body works, right?
Yes. And what I say about that is that we don't need to treat the symptoms, we need to treat the system, which is you. It's who you are. So it doesn't matter if you're predisposed to high cholesterol, say, right? Where's that coming from? So which system may be broken or might need a little bit of repair? So we don't have to guess anymore on all of that. We can do a test, we get a report, you get your insight, and you really get to see who you are inside that. And you know, you and I both, Corinne, we've been in this industry for over a decade, nearly two, and we are good guessers. We know how to prescribe, you know, fitness, exercise, movement, nutrition, stress management, all the things. And there's not a one size fits all. And sometimes we really just don't know. Do you need more protein? Do you need less fat or more fat? You know, what types of foods should you be eating or not? We can guess, but you don't have to, you, the client watching us, don't have to guess anymore. You can get the insight on that and unleash your full potential into your blueprint, how you're wired and how you're created. Even with supplements, for me, it was like, okay, I was doing my research. I'm a big researcher. When I got into supplements nearly 20, 25 years ago, I really knew that according to research, I needed to do all of these things, but I didn't understand quality and I didn't really know what was the foundation of who I was and what I needed. So did I spend money on things I maybe didn't need, whereas my money should have been focused somewhere else, right? To really address the root cause of what was going on with my health? And the answer is yes, but I didn't have this tool then.
And I love that, Suzanne. And I actually, I opened my first gym in 1999. So we're talking 25 years ago. But I love that you're making me younger by saying 10 years, but time flies when you're having fun, right? Yeah. But, you know, going on this unique path that we're speaking about is this has really brought it in line because what works for one person doesn't work for another. And we don't know why, right? But things are being coming out all of the time and people are trying things. Some things work for some people and some things don't work. And as Coach Suzanne just mentioned, you know, where do I start, right? Most people are starting at what is showing up for them, what is expressing, right? So whether it was for you digestive health challenges, I also had digestive health, but I had adrenal challenges. So, you know, we just start treating the symptoms of things, even holistically, right? But again, we are really going to show you with Test Don't Guess how we can help you connect the dots and things are going to make sense. So you're either going to say, oh, you know, or you're going to say, that's why, right? That's why. I love it.
Yeah, that happens all the time. And a lot of people are like, okay, well, how does this actually work? Well, it's just like a giant Q-tip. You just swab your cheeks. You send the Q-tip, so to speak, in your mail. Shipping is paid for and all of that. You don't even need to go to the post office or UPS. So that's great as well. And then we, as the genetic health specialist, will get your report back and we'll review that with you. Some of the things that we move through and take a peek at your genetic testing is your metabolism, your food, meaning macros, proteins, carbs, and fats, different food sensitivities, what should you and should you not maybe consume more or less or avoid, and then specific nutrients, and we'll cover exercise too.
And we're going to break this all down for you so you can get an idea of what to expect when your test comes back and what things under new understandings you're going to have about yourself. So your genes are not your destiny. This is actually called epigenetics. When, you know, you're born with your genes don't change, but we can change our lifestyles, which will change the expression of our genes. So just because a gene shows up that might be a potential hurdle for you, we have protective genes and we have potential hurdles, but just because you have a genetic hurdle, that doesn't mean that it's going to be expressing. It may or may not be expressing now, or you may have intuitively, because a lot of times that's what we do. We figure things out the hard way, right? And then we figure out what our body needs, and we start doing that and create a habit around it. But what we're going to do with the testing is you're going to see where you have protective and genetic hurdles so you can really get that dialed in and use your epigenetics, which are your nutrition changes, exercise, intelligent supplementation, getting quality sleep, reducing your stress. All of these things impact the expression of your genes.
I think that's really important to understand that, as said here, we can turn them up or we can turn them down. And I actually say it's like a light switch. You can turn things on and you can turn them off. A good example I give is, typically we think of redheads, fair skin. They're more prone to burning. Well, are they going to burn? Not if they take the right approach, not if they set up their environment the right way. So that doesn't mean that that's what's going to happen. It just means it's a potential and it could happen. So we get to create the environment around us to support us, to elevate who we are, or to make our genes, maybe our troublemaker genes, we can just shush them. That's what I say. Just shush, put them to sleep, support them the right way.
I love that.
Yeah. As I mentioned, we go through macronutrients, which I love because your macronutrients, your proteins, carbs, and fats, we have more information on our YouTube channels about that. But, I had a personal trainer. She's a personal trainer now. And years ago, when she was being personally trained, which she still does, but her personal trainer, so maybe you can relate listening to this, her personal trainer was more protein, more protein, more protein. And do we need a lot of protein? Yes, we do. Most people under consume protein. However, she had her very high, almost near 200 grams of protein. And this lady was saying, this is too much. It doesn't feel good. And I'm gaining weight. And the personal trainer at that time, knowing that protein is beneficial for building muscle, yes, it is, just said, keep pushing through it. Well, now, today, we did this lady's genetic test, and she's actually low on the protein side. So she was getting the right message from her body that this was too much. She did need to back down. So again, she was guessing. The personal trainer thought from her heart she was doing the right thing. So we really get a good understanding of what our body needs when it comes to fats. I was eating a lot of fat. My genetic test says I need to eat lower fat. I didn't know that. And had I kept going, I could have created an issue for myself. So how do we personalize those proteins, carbs, and fats to help you be able to stabilize blood sugar levels, to balance your hormones, to give you optimal energy, and help you feel amazing throughout the day without creating a toxic buildup, without creating inflammation in the body. And for me, as you already mentioned, Corinne, having a good digestive and elimination system as well, super important.
I love that. And then, getting back this report that you're going to receive after your genetic test comes back, and it's over 75 pages, and then getting that 60-minute genetic consultation, that is something that's missing. Like I said, I took 5 or 6 different genetic tests. Only one of them came with consultation after. They actually offered one with a genetic coach and one with a health coach, and the genetic coach was recommending pharmaceuticals to me. And the health coach, when I asked questions about natural ways, she was only speaking to me about nutrition. So there was definitely a disconnect there, and that's where I see there's a disconnect in the genetic industry because people don't know what to do with this information. So, getting this 60-minute consultation, we are also going to send you out a health history form so we can see what's expressing and help connect the dots between your genetic test and your health right now. And then our coaches are going to help you strategize your meals and teach you ways to make your meals more nutrient dense, and while also lowering inflammation, balancing hormones, and improving the quality of your digestion. So it really is information that you can make sense and that you can put into action right away. And that's what I love about what we do as well.
Mhm. That's so important. I feel like as a client myself and as you listening, if I could give one piece of advice, it would always be to ask what's next. If there's no follow-up plan, if there's no next step, what are you going to do with the information you have? Information is great, but what do we do with it? And that is what we truly focus on, is helping you continue to create your lifestyle, your environment, and your solutions that will help you reach your goal, whatever your goals may be. In addition to your foods that you ought to be eating, your menu plans, recipes, all the things that we share and guide through that, we also can move through it. Well, we do move through food sensitivities such as gluten. Are you intolerant or sensitive to that? When we do these tests, some of you, a lot of people will say, well, I already know I don't do well with caffeine, and it shows up on your report. So as you mentioned earlier, Corinne, sometimes it's like, oh yeah, like I knew that, or it's a great awareness of, oh, lactose. So really, I shouldn't be eating dairy. Maybe that's why I'm inflamed. Maybe that's why things on my skin are showing up, or, my tummy is having an issue, et cetera, et cetera. So it gives some insight, and then you get to decide what you're willing to do and what actions you're willing to take. So, and then sweet preferences is one of my favorites too, because I was a candy monster. That was all I was eating in high school. And then I learned why it was so bad for me. But more importantly, I was genetically wired to just crave all these sweets. So now today I get to make a choice. Do I avoid candy at all causes? No, because I like some of it. But I know that if I start eating a little bit of candy, say around Halloween or Christmas, it's likely that I'll want more. So having that awareness about myself, that if I dabble into something, it could turn something on, right? It could flip that light switch, and I know what I need to do to take care of myself. And then some other people too, super cute actually, because like my daughter and some other people don't like dark chocolate, don't like broccoli, don't like Brussels sprouts. And it's like, yeah, we want to expose our kids, and we want to tell you as the client, put on your big girl pants and get your vegetables in. But sometimes that bitter taste just doesn't fly. And that's because that's who you are. So we just, in this case, would help you find different vegetables that would suit your needs and your taste buds a little bit better. So you're not crazy, and it's just who you are.
I love that. And I actually have this bitterness sensitivity gene. So things, ginger tasted like soap to me. Cilantro had a weird taste to me. And so sometimes it's not even finding not eating it at all, because we do train our taste buds, right? So it might be how we cook that food, right? To see if there's a way that we can create it. I actually found when I was younger that I would put cheese on everything, but really by using vinegar and lemon juice and things like that, that cut the acidity and will, change the flavor just a little bit. That's really been the key for me. And I pretty much like just about everything now. And knowing that that sweet preference gene, like you said, Coach Suzanne, you aren't making things up. You might be hungry right after you eat a meal, right? Or it might turn on that switch. But knowing that this is connected to genes, we have satiety genes, we have hunger genes and satiety genes. So if we can get those in balance, and especially if someone has a genetic hurdle for that gene, then we can help them just be more consistent on keeping that in check, because no one likes to feel like an out of control person, right? And then just moving up the line one more to that caffeine gene, because I actually just listened to a 4-part series on caffeine, and they mentioned genetics with the caffeine. That doesn't mean that you can't have caffeine, because I know that's as soon as some of my clients see that they're slow caffeine metabolizer, they're like, don't take away my coffee, right? So that is something that people feel emotion around, sugar and caffeine, right? Alcohol or other things. But with that caffeine gene, that doesn't mean if you're a slow metabolizer that you can't have it at all, but you need to stop drinking it much, much earlier than someone who metabolizes caffeine well. So these are just things so we can understand how we can shift things, right? And have these conversations. So that's what I love about this.
Yes, and I want to add one more thing. You brought up a great point in that, I've gone through reports with some people, and their sweets preference maybe is turned way up genetically, and they're like, no, but I don't really crave sweets. And that's the power of genetics. They avoided it, or they knew it wasn't beneficial for them. They choose to eat other things. So they've shushed that gene. They've put that gene to sleep and said, I don't need you loud. You're there, but you don't need to be turned on. So they've created choices that are their lifestyle that then either in some cases enhanced a beneficial gene or quieted down a non-beneficial gene. So that's a great example that you mentioned, that, that's proof that about how your genes work.
And I love too that, we can help people and insert things. Like I was drinking, I'm a slow caffeine metabolizer, and I was drinking caffeine all day long when I was struggling with my thyroid and adrenals, and it actually makes you feel worse. So by understanding this and being able to insert something that's actually going to give me natural energy, like our fiber greens and bee drink in the afternoon, and the L-glutamine is going to shush the sweet preference gene, because that's when I would have sweet cravings. So these are the things that we can help people dial in to get back in the driver's seat of their life, so we can be productive and be making our own choices. No one likes to feel out of control, right?
Yeah. Your body's going to absorb a certain amount of nutrients from the foods and or the supplements that you're ingesting and consuming. And so we're going to be moving through, how do you absorb the foods that you're consuming? Because food is nourishment. That's why we eat it, is to get the nutrients into our bodies. And so genetically, you might be wired to absorb a little bit on the lesser side of certain nutrients, which could put you at lower levels. So it isn't uncommon. Blood work too, by the way, blood work is a snapshot of now, and it changes. That's why people get their blood work done every month on some occasions, or every 90 days, is because that's what's changing. Genetics will never change, as was already mentioned. And so oftentimes, though, when people aren't absorbing certain nutrients like vitamin D, it's a genetic, it would show up on your test. It can be a genetic hurdle, and that is typically also connected with the blood work showing, right? So sometimes it's like, why is my blood work low on vitamin D, for example? And why am I being prescribed this medication and it's still not going up? Well, if you have a break in your gene and you're not absorbing the nutrients efficiently, let's look at different ways, different forms, different methods to increase the vitamin D, for example, in your body. But at least now you know why you're having those troubles. And so other nutrients, micronutrients of interest that we look at is vitamin A, a lot of the B vitamins, C and D.
Mhm. And as Coach Suzanne was saying, these micronutrients all work in synergy together. So when we're missing one nutrient, yes, there are specific things like vitamin B. Low vitamin B can cause neuropathy, right? Tingling in fingers and toes. And, each nutrient has a list of side effects that can happen when we're missing a nutrient. But the cascading effect that happens when we're missing one nutrient is really what we like to look at, because even though like vitamin B6 has to do with the way our body breaks down our proteins, fats, and carbohydrates, right? Our nerve cell function and gut health. So this is where we can help people. And any digestive health book, you're going to see vitamin B's listed. But then we're also going to be talking about the quality of these nutrients, as Coach Suzanne said. So a lot of people are taking a vitamin D supplement, which vitamin D is actually a hormone, not a vitamin, and they're taking 50,000 IUs, but then they're still going to their health professional and they still can't even get above the 30, which is the bare minimum of vitamin D should be. They say 30 to 60. But we like our vitamin D to be a little bit higher. And it takes K2 to drive vitamin D into the cell. If your vitamin D is low, then your body can't absorb magnesium, which works in your body in so many different ways. And then your body can't absorb calcium. So it might be sitting in your bloodstream, but it's not getting to the places where your body needs to use it. And then there are some genes that are more potential genetic hurdles, like vitamin B9, the MTHFR variant. We call this an oh crap gene in the genetic world, just because it impacts so many of our bodily functions. So, when my husband, I saw this on his genetic test. Well, he's been taking activated methylated B vitamins for 15 years, twice a day. And so he wasn't expressing any of these things. But I sent an email to his mother and I said, he got this genetic hurdle from one of you or both of you. And which one of you are expressing these things that are connected to this MTHFR, high blood pressure, anxiety, depression, addiction, weakened immune. So I just listed off a bunch of things. And she said his dad's name, over and over again with each one of those. So, I assumed that things were probably expressing more in someone who's in their 80s, right? So, than someone who's younger. So, and these are the things, if we can stave off and make sure that our vitamins are where they're supposed to be. And yes, as Coach Suzanne said, the genetic test is going to show you a predisposition to be low. I have a potential genetic hurdle, but then we follow that up with a specific blood test just to see where your numbers are at with your health professional. So this way, if you have that genetic hurdle, that's something you should be getting tested at least once a year in your regular blood test. So those are the kinds of insights we can help you with and teach you what to ask your health professional for. And let them know if you have a potential genetic hurdle as well, even if they don't understand genetics, right?
Yeah, that's where a lot more, it's throughout the whole test. It's so exciting, but moving through the micronutrients is really where people are like, oh, that makes sense. They weren't aware that it had anything, that their challenge, their health challenge or weight challenge had anything to do with vitamins or micronutrients at all. So it's so insightful. And when your report comes back and you move through this, we'll go through, these vitamins and micronutrients in detail and help you make your own connections.
And I just want to mention as well, because we gather a health history on the front end of this, and we can see some things that are expressing, because some things might already be expressing for you. But also, when we have people list out medications that they're taking, I always let people know I'm not a health professional, but the first thing I do, which people tend not to do this, they get put on a medication to control a symptom, right? But the first thing I do is I look up to see what nutrients it's going to be pulling out of someone's body, right? So say they do struggle with anxiety and or depression, all of those medications, if you look them up, pull B vitamins out of your system. What does your body need if you have and if you struggle with anxiety and or depression? More vitamin B, right? So, teaching people that that's something that needs to be replenished every single day, right? And that it's depleted by stress, sugar, and alcohol. This is one of the biggies with our B vitamins, right? And we all know how elderly people get vitamin B12 shots, right? So, just helping people understand their vitamin levels. And I know we try to get everything we can out of our food, but it's just not possible. And especially if we're taking something that's leaching vitamins out of our system. So now we're going to be talking about the importance of the bioavailability of your nutraceuticals. So I know a lot of people are taking pill form supplements, and I always, as a health coach, I tell people, eat the whole orange that's full of fiber, right? Don't drink the juice, which is just the sugar. Yes, it has vitamin C, but it also has all the sugar and not the fiber, right? But we want our nutraceuticals, our vitamins, to be in the most bioavailable form. So why, when I was introduced to isotonics, I was taking 16 pill form supplements because anytime something was showing up, in my body in as a health challenge, I knew that I wanted to do something natural. So I started researching. I'd Google it, right? We use our Google doctor, right? And so I started studying nutrients and I started adding things to my pill box, right? That I was studying. But it wasn't changing the way I felt because I had such horrible digestive challenges, which 80 to 90% of people have leaky gut. So their stomach acid is off in some kind of way. So I loved when I saw that isotonic nutraceuticals bypass the stomach acid and become 95% bioavailable and match your blood, sweat, and tears. So they're the same osmolarity, the same pressure as your bodily fluids. And that's how we want our vitamins to be bioavailable.
Yeah.
And this,
Go
yeah,
ahead.
go ahead, Suze.
Well, I was just going to say too, I compare the isotonics vitamins, the isotonicity to IV therapy a lot because that's part of, I work with that industry as well. And you're familiar listening to this, IV goes right into your bloodstream. Well, here on this image in the top, when you drink your isotonics vitamins, because we don't always have time or resources, or maybe you don't like needles like me to go get high quality IVs all the time. Instead of that, you can drink your vitamins at home, and within 20 to 40 minutes, the isotonics you can see moves right through the stomach and it's gone. So it's available, available and absorbed into the body around a 90 to 95%. And then IV is 100. Sublingual is next, maybe 60 to 80%. And then pills, a lot of them have binders and fillers. So it's a much lesser percentage, downwards of 30. And in the healthcare industry, we call a lot of pills, we call them bedpan pills, because you can see here in the imaging, even after 40 minutes, those pills are sitting in the gut. So number one, if you have poor gut health, you're not going to absorb them. Nutritional value is lost because it's the time lapse of trying to break down those hunk of pills in your body. And it can even cause more problems because now you could, not saying you will, but you could get blockages because those pills are stuck. And this is an actual x-ray. So you can see here where the pills are still in the body. In fact, I was talking to an herbalist the other day, and she started telling me the story, and I knew exactly where she was going, that you could read the label on some of the pills that the patients were taking. And so with the isotonics, you don't have to worry about that, whether you're somebody like Corinne and I, who maybe just struggled with gut health, maybe you really don't know if you have gut health issues, and specifically people who have had procedures and alterations in the GI system, the isotonic vitamins are really the way to go, ensuring that you're going to be absorbing the nutrients versus taking pills where you just don't know.
Mm-hmm. And I love that too, Suzanne, that you mentioned the IV therapy, because that is, I love IV therapy as well. But like I said earlier, we do need to be consuming our B vitamins daily because they are depleted daily in our bodies. They're water soluble. So, and understanding that when we get an IV therapy, or the first thing, if you have to go to the hospital, they put an IV in your arm, right, to get nutrients in your body. That's saline salt. So in order for something to become isotonic and match the same pressure as your blood, sweat, and tears, it has to be isotonic. And that's either to drive the nutrient into the cell, it's either going to take a little bit of salt or sugar. So our isotonics, because we're drinking them, so when you get an IV, that's saline, that's salt, when you drink them, there's a couple grams of fructose, which drives the nutrient into the cell. So understanding that every single thing that's in your isotonic supplement, and each one has its own osmolarity, its own formula to become isotonic. It's just the science. I love it. I'm a science weenie.
Weenie. Oh, and then we move into the exercise component. Right in the beginning, we went through what the genetic test covers, and so fascinating to me because growing up, I love sports, I love the outdoors, but I did not want to play soccer and I did not want to play basketball because it was too much running. And then moving through genetic testing that I've gone through, I'm not wired to have cardio genes or endurance genes. However, cardio is important. And I knew that before I took my genetic testing. I'm like, okay, I just don't like this type of exercise, but I knew I needed it for my heart health. And so at that point was when I found a gym that did 30-minute boot camp style. And I was like, okay, weightlifting plus cardio. And I did the workout and I was like, oh, we're done. It's 30 minutes and I'm dripping sweat. So that was awesome. And recognizing, right, what are the benefits to cardio beyond my heart health? Can it help you with fat loss? How are you wired? You know, maybe cardio could be one of your enhanced genes and that's your magic bullet. So just adding cardio can help with the fat loss or even the fitness response, the heart health, the VO2 max component to fitness. And then what about body composition and strength training? I respond pretty well to lifting weights, specifically my upper body. And it wasn't, this is where I had a lot of like, oh yeah, like I already knew this. This totally makes sense. A lot of people that I work with are thinking about their family history, right? So heart health, cardiovascular, brain health, and then cholesterol is a component in there too. And so can cardio be a good gene or excuse me, a good component to support your genes when it comes to cholesterol? And HDL alone isn't the end all be all, but we can go through that when we move through your consultation with your genetic test results. Insulin response to sensitivity and glucose. So insulin is a hormone, right? So Corinne, you can even add value to this too about how can cardio support insulin, and then all the food that we eat, well, most of the food, specifically carbs, turn to glucose in the body, which is good, but some of us have too much stored, right? So how do all of these go together, and how can cardio and strength training really help you reach your health and wellness goals?
I really love this because, so many people are limited to the amount of time that they can spend with their workouts, right? They're busy, they want to make it count, whatever they're doing, right? And like you said, Coach Suzanne, some people have already figured out what things, like when I started doing strength training, my body responded as well. And I actually have the strength training gene. When I saw that I had the protective gene on the HDL, which, as Coach Suzanne said, all cholesterol is good. There's no good or bad cholesterol. Our whole body needs cholesterol, our brains, everything. But they call the HDL the good cholesterol. So when I saw that on my report as a protective gene, when my body doesn't metabolize fats well, so my other tests said I was predisposed to high cholesterol, to fatty liver, right? I said, wow, I have this protective gene here. I'm going to run a study because I love the science, right? And so I had about 6 months to my blood test. And I started adding, because I was going towards strength training like I always do, because I just feel so good when I strength train. And I wasn't doing very much at all, just warming up for 5 minutes doing cardio. So I extended that a little bit and started doing a 15 to 20-minute more high intensity cardio training just to see if anything would move on my blood test from the year before. And I went in and my health professional said, oh my gosh, how did you get your HDL number to go up so much? It's a very hard number to move. And I said, well, I'm so glad that you said that because I've been doing this experiment and I added some high intensity when I saw that I had a protective gene. So I love that we can use different sets of numbers, right? I would much rather use my blood test as my regulator for my health than getting on a scale. So, and understanding what our body needs and dialing it in it's so empowering, right?
Mhm.
So here are some case studies and success stories. So, one thing with genetic testing, when people are adopted, they don't have a health history. And as I've been doing my consultations with my clients, and on there we have the health of your mother, the health of your father, right? I'd see question marks in there. And what I love when I started implementing genetic testing is that I could tell someone, it's about time you have a health history for yourself. And we don't need to know the health of your mother and your father, because obviously we're a compilation of genes from all of our ancestors, right? And I know that doctors look at that health history of our parents to kind of predetermine what hurdles we might have, right? But that's where I love having this and being able to offer this to someone who might be adopted or have circumstances where they don't know the history. Maybe their parent died when they were younger, right? In a car accident or something. So I love seeing these success stories of people. I guess it's not really a success story, it's their insights and just how it makes people feel to have this knowledge, right? This applicable knowledge for their health. Because that's really all we're trying to do is understand ourselves and our health better. So, this second client, there were a lot of things expressing, um, and that had to do with this MTHFR variant. So, putting those activated methylated Bs in the isotonic form in while we're focusing on their lifestyle habits and things that are depleting Bs, that it was a game changer for them, and removing the box foods that have the wrong type of B vitamins in it, because those actually build up as a toxin in this person's body when they have this gene. And so they're trying to enrich our food with vitamins, but they aren't putting them in the bioavailable forms. And that also was a game changer for this person. And this third client with menopause, our bodies, it seems like they change overnight. All of a sudden, I hit menopause, but our bodies are changing all through perimenopause. We start accepting a new level of normal. And that's a whole 1 hour seminar we can go through on menopause and what happens with all of your different hormones and how to balance them better, and through nutrition, nutraceuticals, and our lifestyle. But just having your genetic predisposition, because some of these things start showing up more when our body takes a shift hormonally. That's also a game changer, because sometimes it feels like everything is going all wrong at once. And how did this happen? How did I get here? Right. So it's just extremely empowering.
I think it's important. I have a few stories I'd like to share as well with my experience. And I think it's important to understand the importance of, that's a lot of importances. And, like, again, you get this test, you get your results. Now what? What's next, right? And so what is so important is there's actionable items. How are you going to move your body? How are you going to manage stress? What supplements are you taking? And how are you going to improve or change or modify your nutrition? And what's important for me to share, and I'm so passionate about it because it means so much to the human body, is that these nutrients are an indicator of how we're going to thrive or how we're going to just survive and get by. And you may or may not have heard a story about, like, an arborist. Maybe you're a plant person like I am, and you understand soil and conditions, environmental conditions. That's your environment. That's your lifestyle, relating to a human being. If we're planting plants in the soil, or all of a sudden in menopause, a tree starts not producing fruit anymore, the leaves start dying off, we're actually going to test the soil. We're actually going to look at the root of the plant. Why is the lettuce not growing, etc. And we're going to treat the environment around that plant versus just saying, the plant's no good anymore, or I don't know what to do. And I'm sharing this story because sometimes people are like, well, I already take vitamins, or I don't really know if I should take vitamins because I eat really well. I eat really well myself. And nutrition is what's really going to change the game inside of my body and add the nourishment so that all of these other things can thrive. Skin health, hormone health, the leaves, the fruit, all the things. That's what we need to grow and to thrive. And I had a mom that went through her genetic test, had some really great insights, and had been sharing for about a year with me the health of her daughter, who was in her early 20s and had extra body fat and had trouble losing weight that she could not figure out. She'd been to all the doctors, had all these tests, all these things, was just struggling. And you can imagine, at any age, and in her 20s being overweight and not being able to figure it out, and it was just impacting her heart and her soul and her community, you know, hanging out with her girlfriends. And so the mom said to me, well, what if I put my daughter on my protocol? Do you think that could help her? And I said, well, she is half you. We don't know which gene she has from you, but she does have your genes. And so if you don't want to run the genetic test on her, but you want to run your protocol on her because she is you, let's try it. So she did. She ran the protocol on her daughter, set her up, and she lost 7 pounds in 2 weeks. And so that's important because that changed her life. That gave her insight. It gave her tools and awareness. And one last story I'll share, a little bit of a deeper story. This client has a serious life-altering disease. And while we're not focusing on disease states, she wants to know how to support her health and thrive while she's still here. And it was very interesting because when I got her test back, I texted her and I said, I'm so excited. We need to get on your review, get on your consultation. And I was a lot of her, it was almost all of her B vitamins, all her B genes were challenged, broken, however you want to say it. But I was so excited because that was the insight that she needed, because her disease, this rare disease that she has, is highly connected to all these B vitamins. And so now she's feeling better. Her muscles are feeling better. Her strength and her energy in her lower body is better. And it's all because she's still working on her nutrition. She has a busy lifestyle. She has 3 children, and the vitamins that she's taking, knowing specifically what base she needs to focus on, because she can do the other things too, but where does she really need to focus? She's decided to put her focus there, and she's feeling much better. Her child, one of her children, also has a common health challenge that we hear about today. And she decided to put him on the same vitamins because it's a variant, it's a break off of what she has. Hers is really red and really challenged. His is orange, so to speak. And they're connected is the point of the story. And so she's been able to help her health, but she's also been able to impact the health of her child just by making a few changes. And as a family, they're working on which foods do we need to remove because they're inhibiting the absorption of these B vitamins, right? So that's the one more thing, is that this is the exciting piece that I share with my clients too. This test you have for life. Your genes don't change. You never need to take this test again. And while we get to move through your consultation and pick a thing or two that you want to implement, you're going to be able to continuously go back, whether it's next month, next year, or 5 years down the road, and say, wait a minute, this is why that happens, or this is what I need to do, or I ought to modify this. So it's so exciting, and it's a tool that you'll have in your toolbox for the rest of your life that can help you with your health.
I love that, Suzanne. And everything that Coach Suzanne is talking about is what I call health and hope, right? And we need more health and more hope in the world because, when things start going wrong and we don't know what to do, we start using Google, right? Like I said, and trying to connect our own dots. But all we need are just more tools, more things to connect the dots. And when we really understand the importance of the foods, the live foods that we're putting into our bodies, and then even what nutrients are in those foods, right? That's what I love. Even when nutrients are listed out, it lists out the foods that you can eat more of, right? To get those nutrients in organically in your body, but then also subsidizing with the bioavailable isotonic supplement to go in and then, focusing on all of those factors of sleep and stress and that are depleting our body of nutrients as well. So health and hope, connecting the dots to your optimal health can be a frustrating journey, but we always say you're so worth this journey. We get one life, and we can control the amount of energy that we have to live that one life that we get, right? We just need to understand our bodies better. And this is a tool for you to have a greater understanding of your unique you. And so it's such an empowering journey. We're excited to come alongside of you on this journey. to be your health advocate. And what else do you have to add there, Suzanne, in closing?
Well, your time and energy are your most precious commodities. So together, as you said, right, we get to work together so that you can focus on your energy and living each moment of your precious life. You deserve to live energetically, healthfully, and just feeling vibrant and alive. And I believe that God's true design is good health. So you can have that. There is hope in that. And we are helping people every day change their life and guiding them to what steps benefit them the most and help them be happier, healthier, and more vibrant.
Mhm. Yeah, that's great. So your next step would be to book a consultation to learn more about genetic testing and how it could benefit you and your health. And that will be posted in a link wherever you're watching this video from. And we're really excited to come alongside you and be a part of your journey.
Yes, thank you for doing this. This was great.
Mhm. Have a great day.